Hi guys, it's Jessica. Welcome and welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, we are discussing season 2, episode 6 of Interview with the Vampire. I know it's been a minute. There's a huge gap here, but give me a break. I got a full-time job. They wanted me to start sooner than I expected, so I have a new schedule. I'm very excited about the new job. I want to really pour into this opportunity to build a sustainable creative career there, and I also want to find time for my creative endeavors. So I'm working on that, but I'm back here right now. Let's focus on the present, okay? Don't be cussing me out, because one of my friends did question me, and he wasn't wrong. However, and I ended my podcast so that I can devote more to the YouTube and short form content. So here we are. Let's get right into this episode because it is meaty, okay? So Daniel has questions about how the interview even came to be. Who dropped off the tapes? My postman this and da-da-da-da. And how do the Talamasca work? Where y'all get y'all money from? Do y'all work for other states? Are y'all funded by the government? And it's like, why you in a business like that? But he's deeply uncomfortable with this surveillance footage that was uncovered of him from the 70s. And he has questions, and he's also concerned for his safety. He's like, if I work for y'all, will y'all protect me? And all boy from Talamasca is like, you can't have both. You can either be a successful author from this book, or you can ask more specific questions that we want to know the answer to, and we'll buy this book and bury it. It will never see the light of day. So it's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. A phrase that I hate, because why would you have cake if you can't eat it? Anyway, so there is also a whole series about the Talamasca. Did y'all know? But it's on a whole other streaming service, and I will not be subscribing to another streaming service. At this point, let's just go back to cable. I'm tired. I can't do it. So anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch, back in time, back in the interview, Armand has been trying to control this mutiny by indulging Sam as a playwright and Santiago as the lead actor. And the whole time, the fuss is playing in his face. The whole time, they were plotting. He thought that he was in control. He was not. Santiago was there, but his mind was on the other side of town with the female actors at the lawyer's office trying to find out Lestat de Leon Cole, his last known address, his emergency contact, and all kind of shit. And this really does speak to Santiago's skill as an actor, that he's able to sit here and do both things, right? And then we find out later that was he, because he's like delivering these lines and whatnot while also telepathically communicating with the women and controlling the lawyer to get this information out of him. And Daniel is extremely suspicious of Armand at this point. So he's like, well, I don't buy that. You're like this ancient, very powerful vampire. How did you not know what was going on? And Armand blames it on love. And Louis is also looking like, It's the tension between these three is really, really high. And you can tell that we're building to something, to a really big climax in this episode. You can tell that we're building to a twist, because it's like they're inflating the balloon, inflating the balloon, inflating the balloon, and then it finally pops at the end. But before we get there, Claudia ends up stopping an attack on Madeline at her shop. This scene was really hard to watch because while obviously Nazism is deplorable, I don't think that rape is a proper punishment for anything. And so I really struggle to watch even fictional violence against women, and especially even the potential of sexual violence against women. So Claudia intervenes. She saves Madeline's life and then reveals herself to be a vampire. And Madeline is so shook that she just sat down. She just sat down because think about it. Your store was vandalized. Your neighbor was going to stand there and watch you get assaulted, not lift a finger. You almost got raped by 2 men while a woman helped them do it. And then you witnessed 3 supernatural murders. That's a lot to take in at one time, right? And so these two decide that they want to pursue their relationship, which I didn't see coming, but I do want to ask, Why are queer couples always interracial? I'm trying to recall the last time I saw two Black queer people in a relationship in media. And even in real life, I feel like a lot of the more prominent gay couples are interracial. I'm not seeing, that's conversation for another day. But anywho, these two are in love. Louis does not like it. Louis lashes out. Louis is like, this is not safe. He threatens to harm her. And it's like, Louis, you need to calm your tits, hun, because you're out here engaging in forbidden love. You out here on lover number 2 and fitting Claudia in when you can. Claudia also deserves to have someone. She needs a companion in this world because this acting troupe didn't turn out how she thought it was. Lestat didn't turn out how she thought it would. Looking for other vampire family, it's just not going the way that she wants to. So at this point, she just needs someone of her own. And I think that that's more than fair. So Claudia wants Armand to turn her because she doesn't want Madeline to be made as like a descendant of Lestat because she despises him so much. But Armand is very unwilling to do it because he's never turned anyone. He thinks that it's this very like deplorable act. But he goes in to interview Madeline, and the interview isn't going the way he thought it would because Madeline doesn't rattle easily. And I actually really did love this scene. I love that for everything he tried to throw at her, she was like, baby, that ain't it. There's light work for me because she's not the average human person. This woman has no one. She doesn't really have anyone. She's been ostracized from community. She's living in a country recovering from a war that she was on the wrong side of. So she isn't giving up much of a life. And I think that she probably has as much contempt for other human beings as the vampires do. So this isn't, it's not giving what you think that it's giving by asking her what happens when the things of your era are gone. Baby, they just came out of a war. That shit been gone, and she's been struggling to rebuild. And her only ray of hope or sunshine has been Claudia, to be quite clear. But at any rate, Armand can't do it. And I loved the scene where Madeline and Armand are on the couch. It looks almost like a painting, and they're not completely, I don't remember them being completely centered in the room, but it also reminded me of the previous episode when we saw Daniel and Louis sitting at the table, and it's kind of like this meeting of the minds. And I had this, something that I saw in it made me think that Armand was actually really quite moved by the love and the connection that Madeline and Claudia have. He's like, well, what happens when she throws herself into the fire a few decades from now? And she's like, how you know she gonna do that? Maybe I'm what she needs to survive. And I was like, a bold statement, honey. You cannot be living your life thinking that you're gonna save somebody. That is such a mistake, but I get it, fictional. Anyway, well, there are people who believe that in real life still. But anyway, I also really did love, just as an aside, this scene where Louis comes in with this painting and he's talking about how he can flip the money from these paintings into these other enterprises. Oh, we reinvested and then maybe we get a plane and maybe we get this and that. And I completely forgot that Louis is a capitalist. Louis is a savvy businessman. He was running his brothel really well. He was able to parlay that into, even more despite the racism. And he was keeping his family's business afloat before, his brother committed suicide and his mammy blamed him for it and all that shit. So it's really interesting to see that he always had a vision for an accumulation of wealth. And I think that that does help to kind of explain why they have all that they have now in Dubai and the role that art plays in it. So I just thought that that was really cool. You also see in this scene that Louis is such a top. Like, he is such a power top, and I love that for him. But I kept having moments in this episode where I was like, bitch, who is manipulating who? It feels like Claudia is manipulating Louis. Louis is manipulating Armand. Armand is doing some Uno reverse type shit on the whole thing. I can't keep up. I can't keep up. but whatever. So Louis decides to turn Madeline, and I thought the scene where they were both kind of like feeding off of her was actually really beautiful. The way that she was kind of submitting to it and making this really big choice, but she had the support of the person that she really loved. And Louis came to realize that Madeline would be a much better companion to Claudia than he ever could be. And I think that maybe that's why he said that when he tells them to, to run away, just, what y'all want, y'all got what y'all wanted, run away, don't come back here, all of the things. And he says that, like, he didn't feel anything, like the notion that Claudia would be gone, he didn't feel the sadness that he thought that he would feel. And I think that it's because on some level he knew that this was the better option. And, Armand very lovingly says, like, she was a headache, but she was a headache worth having. And then Armand gives Louis the impression, because he comes in with a suitcase, that the coven gave him a choice between them or Louis, and he chose Louis. And Daniel is not buying any of it. Daniel believes Armand to be full of shit, especially when Armand tells Louis that he erased his memory of his suicide attempt because he asked him to erase his memory. And Daniel is like, I don't believe you. And Daniel really has his journalism hat on, and he's like really pulling the truth out of them. And so in the final scene of this episode, you have Louis and oh, that's not the final scene, the penultimate scene. You have Louis and Armand, and Madeline and Claudia are sitting down for drinks. They decided that they should, Madeline convinced Claudia that she should, see Louis before they go off to wander about the world, right? And we then find out that Armand has set them up to be abducted by the theater troupe. And, Armand is like, this was his one act of cowardice. And he ripped these pages from Claudia's diary to protect himself, because he tells, Daniel, like, I don't owe you the one source of shame in my life. I don't owe you my truth, which, I could kind of see where you're coming from with that. Why should you have to tell this white man the truth of, like, the most shameful thing that you've ever done? However, you want some bullshit. And so the episode ends with the four of them on stage at the theater, and they are on trial for crimes against vampires, and we see that they were successful in inviting Lestat. So the scene or the episode ends like on Lestat looking at himself in the mirror. Bitch, I thought vampires couldn't see themselves in mirrors. Is that not lore that Anne Rice is keeping up with, or is that supposed to tell us something? That just dawned on me in this moment. Anywho, that is season 2, episode 6. I am not gonna lie to y'all, this got so good that I did breeze on through to finish the series. So I'll be back for episode 7 and 8 soon. Be sure to like and comment and subscribe and share. Join the Patreon so that I can become a capitalist like Louis and build an empire and whatnot, because why not? Everybody else is doing it. Hello. See you guys soon. Bye.